Nighthawk! I gotta meet the deadline!
I've never seen him bang those keys so diligently.
Don't worry. It's not the monthly report, but his Sunday lineup for his fantasy football league. Tap, 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 tap. Hey everyone, this is Will O'Toole welcoming you to another edition of Park Ridge Sports History. This week, I'd like to focus again on a little bit of college football. It was kind of crazy over the weekend with Notre Dame only having 10 players and losing a huge game to the Ohio State Buckeyes, a team they simply can't beat lately. They've met them 5 straight times, I believe, and lost and really been manhandled except for last night's game. This time they lose with only 10 men on the field, and it's going to come back and probably haunt them because they'll have to run the table to be considered for the playoffs, but I don't really see them really moving up unless Ohio State just implodes, and I don't really see that happening. And of course, Colorado did meet up with a really good team that exploited its defensive problems en route to a big blowout win in Eugene, Oregon, as the Ducks continue their great offense. Man, they've got speed to burn, really, I tell you. And they really brought Colorado down to earth. And I had said the big problem I have with the Colorado Buffaloes is not the quarterback or their offense. I know they couldn't really get started yesterday, but their defense just has too many holes, kind of like a slice of Swiss cheese. And the Oregon Ducks and their great offense exploited it yesterday with Bo Nix, who is now really, with that win yesterday, probably has moved himself into some talk for the Heisman Trophy. I think the Ducks, though, probably going to have to go unbeaten in the Pac-12 for really Nix to be considered. They still have to get by to do that and win the Pac-12. They're going to have to get by the likes of USC and maybe an outlier right now, the Washington State Cougars, who also won their game yesterday in dramatic fashion, beating the Oregon State Beavers. Notre Dame, though, again, it's what I always talk about. They have not won a national title since the 88/89 season. Of course, I always say 89 season there because that's when they played the bowl game, the Fiesta Bowl, defeating West Virginia. They simply have not come close. Yes, I know they've made a couple of playoff runs, but they've been simply put. They've been outclassed in those losses. And of course, in '93, if you're a big Irish fan, you'll know that with the great win over Florida State that year, which would go on to win the national title, the following week, of course, they get beat by David Gordon, his monster field goal, and the Boston College Eagles, who kind of got revenge from a year earlier when Lou Holtz reportedly really stoked the rivalry between the Boston College Eagles and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish by rolling up the score. I do recall him kind of faking a punt. I think he was up like 30 points and he faked the punt. And Tom Coughlin, who was their coach of the Eagles at the time, didn't forget it. Very similar to 1966 when Ara Parseghian kind of racked up USC after tying Michigan State the week before. And again, I promise I will do a show on that 66 game between Michigan State and Notre Dame, because I always feel that there is a lot of kind of mythology, let's just put it that way, about that game. There's a lot of people don't realize what really transpired in that game. And so maybe I can bring that up with an analysis of that game. Anyway, I thought we could, of course, I did the cartoon on all fantasy football, and I did mention about the college football season, which has been pretty dramatic so far. I have to be honest with you. Colorado has really spurred a lot of interest. Do you realize that the game against Colorado State had a huge ratings for ESPN? Didn't realize it. And Notre Dame, of course, always gets a lot of following with their Subway fan base. And of course, the Big Ten, the ACC, kind of a surprise right now with so many victories over the other big time power conferences. And as I've stated before, just these conferences on steroids growing by day. Last week we were talking about the addition of Stanford and Cal to the ACC. That makes the ACC more like the A&P rather than the Atlantic Coast Conference. And I've stated before, I really think there's just too many fingers in the pie, and eventually the pie can't cut the slices even enough. And I really do believe that these leagues, that they've grown too large, and eventually they're going to maybe not so much implode, but almost have each league have a schism, and then they'll go off on their own, trying to make their own deals once again. Cutting the pie so thin, I just don't see it making members of these conferences who are traditional members, I'm talking about the Big Ten and the SEC and even the Big 12, all too happy. Anyway, that's enough editorializing about the state of college football. I'd like to bring this up since it is going to be not a 50th anniversary, certainly not a 75th anniversary, but October 2nd, 1978 falls on this, this year, the 23rd, 2023, October 2nd falls on the same day, Monday, as it did in 1978. And so I always think about that classic game between the Red Sox and, of course, the New York Yankees, when the Yankees rallied from being so far out in July and then surpassing the Red Sox and winning the AL East on October 2nd, 1978 with a 5-4 win, courtesy of Bucky Dent and Reggie Jackson and Ron Guidry and Goose Gossage and all the other Yankee players who had a role, not just in that game and that win, but also in their unbelievable march to the pennant that year. A lot of things, though, again, that people don't realize. The Red Sox do fall out of first place after the Boston Massacre, but people don't realize they rallied over the last couple of weeks. I think at one point they won 8 or 9 straight, and they do secure a win. Many Red Sox fans will remember that they needed Rick Waits and the Cleveland Indians to defeat the Yankees on the last day of the season, and they had to win. And, of course, Louis Tiant, the great Louis Tiant, spun a masterful game. I think it was 5-0 to tie the Yankees on the last day, setting up the one-game playoff, which was played Monday. And, of course, next week it is the anniversary to the day of that game. And I'd like to just explore some of the great players and the great moments in that game with just a different analysis. First of all, the game was 5-4. The Red Sox had taken an early 2-0 lead. I'm just going to go to this and spend some time. And I know it's probably heartbreaking and heart-wrenching for a lot of Red Sox fans to recount this loss, but they really had nothing to be ashamed. And, of course, just giving you an idea, they couldn't pitch Louis Tiant, who was 13-8 that year with a 3.31 ERA, because, as I said, he had just pitched the day before. So they go with Mike Torres, who was signed during the offseason as a free agent from, ironically, the Boston Red Sox. And these two players are going down in history. And to be honest with you, Mike Torres was not a bad pitcher. He had a pretty good career. He's from Kansas. He had a winning record. People don't realize that. And he actually came up. If you ever, and I'm going to try to print this out, he has a rookie card with Mike Torres, and ready for this, a guy by the name of Hal Gibson, who was a pitcher coming up. And I don't know whether he was related to Bob Gibson or not. I'm going to have to do a little bit more investigating on that matter. And I would say right now, probably not. But it's just wild how you have the great Bob Gibson pitching at the same time that a rookie, and I don't know anything about Hal Gibson, came up with Mike Torres. But I just want to give you a little background. I think that Torres probably is seen by many, both Yankee and Red Sox fan, as the GOAT in the game. But I was doing a little bit of study on him. And he had started the season, probably, you could argue, to make the All-Star game, because at one point he was 10-2. Now, he only won 16 games that year. He does lose 13, including the one-game playoff, which is a regular season game. All right, it was it's part of the regular season in baseball. You got to remember that in the AL, they only had a one-game playoff, while the National League played 3 games at one time. That's why you'll see the 1962 Giants versus the Dodgers, and people like, I do believe, Willie Mays, as well as Maury Wills. I'm pretty sure Maury Wills did. They actually played 165 games that year, because those 3 games count towards the regular season, which is kind of interesting, because if you got those 3 extra games in a playoff, and let's just say you could break a home run record with those 3 games. Kind of interesting. Anyway, Torres does start off the season 11-3, and then, like the Red Sox, kind of falls into a slump. His record at one point dipped to 15-12, but then he wins a huge game to earn his 16th win. He wins the game, spins a shutout, 9 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 7 walks, but 4 strikeouts. Interesting thing about it, and I'll probably get that what team he did defeat for his 16th and final victory that season. He actually was, like I said, 10-2 at one point, and then only goes 6-11 the rest of the year. His ERA in both his no decisions and in his losses was 5.56. He was actually 1-3 against the Yankees. And actually, he pitched pretty good in the game on October 2nd, 1978. He only pitched 6 innings in that game, and allowed 5 hits, 4 runs, all earned. He had 3 walks and 4 strikeouts, all right? He did beat the Yankees, going 6 innings with only 6 hits, 1 earned run against the Yankees, and that earned him his only win of the year against the Yankees. The interesting thing is, against the Yankees, Bucky Dent, of course, is the shortstop is most remembered that hits the home run, a 3-run shot against Mike Torres in his last inning of pitching. But do you realize that Fred Stanley also homered against him during the regular season? And interestingly enough, in the game that Stanley homers against the Red Sox and Mike Torres, Reggie Jackson also hit a home run in that game. I just find that kind of interesting that 2 shortstops, and Freddie Stanley actually played quite a few games that year for the Yankees, because there was a couple of times where Bucky Dent was hurt. He only played 123 games, and Stanley had to come in and actually play shortstop for 40 some odd, probably even more games than that. Actually, Stanley played for the Yankees that year. Let's just see. For the Yankees that year, Stanley did play 81 games, most of them really as the substitute shortstop for Bucky Dent. Bucky played 123 games that year for the Yankees. I think he gets hurt. He actually had his batting average up to 268 when he came back from his last injury. He does finish the season at 243, had 5 home runs. I'm going to get into those home runs in a little bit. Had 40 RBIs, basically hitting 9th in the order for the most part. And he scored 40 runs. All right, good season, had 400 at-bats, was responsible, you could actually say, for 80 runs of the Yankees. So 1 out of every 5 plate appearances, Bucky Dent had either a run or an RBI. Not bad, all right? You have to see it in context of the time. Shortstops, like catchers, and for the most part, second basemen, were not seen as your offensive go-to guys. There obviously is more reliance on the shortstop or the middle infield to be part of the offense today, because the game has changed. However, Bucky Dent was brought over. He had been an all-star with the White Sox. George thought that this would add that last key, that last cog, that last part with an all-star shortstop playing for the Yankees in the everyday lineup. However, Fred Stanley did a pretty good job, although his batting average, which had started off at about 300, dipped all the way, and he finished with a batting average of 219. So the more he played, this is why Bucky Dent was so important to the Yankee offense, is that Stanley, in bits and pieces, was a very effective hitter. In fact, as I stated, when Bucky Dent first goes down with an injury, Stanley's very effective in the lineup. I think he had like a 310 batting average early in the year. I'm talking about maybe late April, early May. But by the end of the season, you could see that he was the hitter of more of the 219, 225 fashion than he was at 300. So his batting average really, really dipped. Interestingly enough, though, him playing, he did a very good job and kind of brought the Yankees some time until I guess they got all their pieces together. Here's something interesting that I looked at. Not only did Craig Nettles play a little bit of shortstop, but the Yankees also used, and this is when Bucky Dent was hurt, they actually used Paul Blair, not just at short, but a couple of times at second base. And in one game, he played second base against the Red Sox. And they had a guy named Damaso Garcia, who also was part of that 78 team, who would, of course, go on and play for the Blue Jays. But Garcia was part of that team and also filling in some time for shortstop for the New York Yankees. I never realized how few games Bucky Dent had played that year for the Yankees, because he's missing 25% of the season, playing only 123 games. Nevertheless, I don't want to destroy Mike Torres, because he was an effective pitcher, and it wasn't as if the Red Sox, or that he was benefiting from this great Red Sox offense, and that's why he got off to such a sterling start. But his ERA, as I stated, in all of his losses and no decisions, was 5.56. Against the Yankees, it was 5.21, as he threw 24.2 innings, and gave up 14 earned runs. But in his 16 wins, ready for this, he pitched 132 innings and only surrendered 31 earned runs for a 2.113 earned run average. So Torres was a very good player, a very good pitcher. Was he a number one starter? Absolutely not. Was he a number two? Maybe, potentially. I would say, though, that Torres was probably fit best as a number 3 and 4 starter. Now, of course, the Red Sox did have him as their third starter because they had Eckersley, who they acquired from the Indians, and he won 20 games for them that year. And they also had Louis Tion, who won 13. So right there, you got 33 wins. And then another 16 tossed in by Mike Torres. You have 49 of the Red Sox 98 wins right there with those three guys. And the Red Sox got off, obviously, to a hot start. As I've stated before, the Yankees at Game 34, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, were only 2.5 games off the pace. And as I said, teams that I only included when I was doing that little study about the Yankees this year, after Game 34, I took the Yankee teams that were 6 or more games out. And as I said, only 5 teams finished in the postseason from the great Yankee history. That Red Sox team jumped off the double-digit lead. I think it was 14.5 at one point in July. And then the Yankees just came back and took over in a blitz over the Red Sox. Give the Red Sox credit. They rally. They win. How many straight did they win? Wait a minute. I'm going to give that to you right now. I think they won 8 straight games to get it in a tie. Let me just see something, because I remember that the Red Sox actually won. Ready for this? They lost a walk-off game to the Toronto Blue Jays on Friday, September 22nd, putting them 2 games out, and then would win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a row to tie the Yankees on October 1st. And then, of course, would be playing October 2nd for the division. They would finish with 99 wins, the Yankees with 100, and it was just an incredible season for the Red Sox, who had the MVP in Jim Rice, Carl Yaz at the age of 38 playing 144 games in a number of positions, left field, first base, DH, etc. But I wanted to bring it down to Mike Torres. He put it this way. Here's how effective Torres was in the wins. And, of course, he does go 6 innings against the Yankees in that loss. Actually, he pitched 6 2/3 innings. But in all of his wins, he only had one game where he didn't go into the 7th inning in his wins. And he won that game on Ep.158. He went 6 innings, gave up 1 unearned run with only 2 walks and 5 strikeouts. In his wins, he only gave up 6 home runs. All right. Overall, in his losses, he gave up 13 losses and no decisions. And he did lose to teams like Milwaukee, which had a good season. He lost to the Yankees. He lost to Baltimore, which was always good during that time. He lost to Kansas City. So it wasn't like he was losing to all tomato can teams. He lost again to the Yankees, Baltimore, the Yankees. All right. And he did beat along that line Baltimore. He beat Milwaukee. He beat Baltimore a couple of times. He beat Milwaukee a couple of times. He beat Milwaukee 3 times and the Yankees once. So it wasn't like he was just beating up on the crummy teams to win those 16 games. Now, Bucky Dent, I have to be very honest with you. Ready for this? He hits 5 home runs all year. 2 of them against the Red Sox. And both home runs were against their leading pitchers, winning pitchers, Dennis Eckersley and Mike Torres. All right, his first home run occurred when the Yankees, in their 34th game, and he hit it off Mike Willis of the Toronto Blue Jays. He goes 3 for 5 with 2 runs batted in. The Yankees, of course, win the game 11-3. In the 5 home runs, the Yankees win 4 of those games with Bucky Dent supplying some home run power. Actually, Bucky Dent, when he hit a home run, was 6 of 13 with, ready for this, 10 RBIs. So he had a pretty good batting average. And the interesting thing is, every time he hit a home run, his batting average did go up. So it seemed to spur a batting streak for him, because prior to his 3 for 5 Mike Willis bomb against the Blue Jays, he was only hitting 200. Now, this is early. His batting average goes up to 219. Then on 6-7, June the 7th, he hits a home run off Seattle and Jim Colborn, and the Yankees win the game 9-1, and his batting average goes up 10 more points. Then against Eckersley and the Red Sox, they do lose the game 9-5, and this was July 3rd, and I remember that particular weekend, actually Sunday, Monday, because July 4th, it was a huge game, and it was a big rain out. And I always thought that was an important game because the Red Sox were just going to throttle the Yankees the next day. They had destroyed the Yankees in this, I think, a 4-game set. This game got called. And I always thought that was a big moment in this pennant race, because had the Red Sox played that game, I'm convinced they would have won the game, because they were really rolling and the Yankees were really reeling. Nevertheless, his batting average goes up to 236. Then he hits a home run off Bob Lacey of the Oakland A's, and that was also a win, 5-3. That came on August 16th. His batting average went up to 268. Now, he slumps all the way down to, I think, like 240, 239. And then when he hits the 3-run bomb off Mike Torres, his batting average goes up and ends the 78 season with a 243 batting average. But those 3 runs coming in the 6th inning with 2 out, him using a different bat than he normally did, crushed the Red Sox. Now, to the Red Sox, people don't realize this, the Yankees take a 5-2 lead in that game, and it's late in the game, and the Red Sox do, just like they did after they lost the lead to the Yankees in the East, they rally. And just like the Red Sox that year, they do rally in this game. They score 2 runs, had the tying run at second base in the 9th inning. Of course, unfortunately, Yastrzemski popped up against Goose Gossage to end the season for the Red Sox and to end, obviously, the rally. But that could have been, there's a big play, of course, that we all like to talk about. If I can find it, I'm going to get it right here. In that 9th inning, ready for this? There is a walk to Rick Burleson, and then Jerry Remy hits a single to right field. Now, Lou Piniella, not known for his grace in right field. He was no Roberto Clemente. But Lou is, I can only describe as, he's a guy that you want on your side because he's a winning ball player. Now, as the sun was setting, because the game was played on a Monday, actually late Monday morning. I think the game started like 11:30, as I recall, and it only lasted 3 hours. So you're talking about 12, 1, 2, maybe about 3 or 4. I don't know. I just always thought it started really early in the day. Regardless, it was the sun was starting to set, and Fenway, the sun sets right over. Lou Piniella describes it right in the right field, so the sun is right in his eyes. He never saw the ball after it was hit off Remy. Off Remy's bat. And he said, and I got this from a SABR writing, Society of American Baseball Research, Piniella knew that he lost the ball and he had to keep the runner at second. And he basically was able to fake out Burleson, preventing him from going to third base. And if you watch the replay, he just sticks his glove out. But to Lou's credit, he did set himself up and this is really what separates major league players from everybody else. And anybody who says they could do what a major league player can do sitting on their couch, they don't know how gifted these guys really are. And he was just able, by instinct, just by baseball acumen, to be able to position himself the right way and to snag the ball, prevent Burleson from getting to third base. Lou was never, like I said, didn't have the grace of other outfielders, nor did he have the arm of other outfielders, but he had great baseball IQ, a competitive nature, just a winning attitude. He prevented Burleson. The next guy up, of course, is Jim Rice, and he ripped the ball to right field into the gap. It was caught, but it was deep enough that had Burleson gotten into third on the previous play, more than likely he would have scored the tying run, setting up for Carl Yastrzemski. Unfortunately for Yaz, he popped up, goes into foul territory, just got jammed by the great Goose Gossage in the game. It ended for the Red Sox season, which started out so great, ended in such tragedy. And the Yankees, their magical season of being double digits down, 14 games down in July, the firing of Billy Martin, the hiring of Bob Lemon, who just said, go out and play. Just great play. And by the way, people don't realize this. Reggie also hit a home run that actually you could consider it was the game-winning hit. Well, Bucky Dent actually hit the game-winning hit in my mind because he gave the lead that the Yankees never surrendered. He added the fifth and big run, Reggie, and that was the deciding run in this game. Reggie leaves his mark once again in some of the most significant games in baseball history. And of course, Rich Gossage, Hall of Famer, gets Hall of Famer Carl Yastrzemski to pop up. He got Jim Rice, the fly ball, deep fly, which might have, as I said, had Piniella not made the brilliant play, probably would have scored Burleson from third base. And man, oh man, just so many great players in this game. You have Carlton Fisk, who played in this game, Hall of Famer. Ron Guidry, who would win the Cy Young. And of course, this game, in a lot of ways, obviously, Guidry had the Cy Young locked up. But people don't realize this, that Rice had a big hit in this game that got them their first RBI, I do believe. Actually, just for what it's worth, Yaz hits a home run to give him another. Let me just see. Yaz hits the home run I think, home run in the bottom of the first to give them the 1-0 lead. I know that Rice had a big hit and an RBI in the game. He probably gave him the 2-0 lead. Pardon me. All right. I'm just remembering this all off the top of my head. But Rice went 1 for 5 in that game, RBI. Yaz went 2 for 5, 2 runs scored, 2 RBIs. He had the solo shot, of course. And unfortunately for Yaz, he does make the final out in the game. Great game, played on October 2nd, 1978. It'll go down as the Bucky Dent game. For Red Sox fans, another cruel knife in their back, courtesy of the New York Yankees. For the Yankees, another great story in their unbelievable history of world championships and pennants. Hope you enjoyed. This is Will O'Toole. Hoping you join us next week for another edition of Park Ridge Sports History. Special thanks to Howard, who I'm about. Along with this show, I'm going to be sending him the baseball cards that he can post up as well. Thanks, Howard. See you soon.